The fog came first, rolling in from the pines like a ghost that had been waiting all night. By the time the sun rose, Greywater Lake was nothing but a mirror of cold mist and rippling silence. A single patrol car sat at the dock, its red and blue lights flickering faintly against the pale water. Detective Noah Reeves stood near the shoreline, collar turned up, eyes scanning the water. The call had come in at 5:47 a.m., a possible drowning. The wife said her husband had fallen from their boat during a late-night storm. No body, no witnesses. Just one woman and a story that didn't fit the weather reports. When Lena Moritz arrived, wrapped in a gray blanket the paramedics had given her, she looked more like a painting than a person. Pale, trembling, eyes rimmed red but dry. Her wet hair clung to her cheeks, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She kept glancing toward the lake as if expecting it to return something it had taken. "It happened fast," she whispered. "The wind came out of nowhere. Evan stood up to grab the rope and the boat just tipped." Her voice cracked on the last word. Noah nodded slowly, watching her instead of his notepad. "You didn't call right away?" I tried. My phone got soaked. I ran to the main road. It was dark." A diver's head surfaced near the dock, pulling off his mask. "Nothing yet," he shouted. "Visibility's terrible. We'll go down again." The sound made Lena flinch. She turned away, clutching the blanket tighter. Noah caught the movement. A small, involuntary recoil. Grief could make people shake like that, but so could guilt. He glanced toward the water. The lake was deceptive, serene now, but known for swallowing more than one drunk fisherman over the years. Still, something about her story didn't sit right. The storm last night had been mild, barely enough wind to rattle loose branches. "Can you walk me through it again?" he asked. Lena hesitated, staring at her reflection in the water. "We were anchored near the middle. Evan wanted to photograph the lightning. He stood up. I told him to sit down. Then the boat shifted, and he fell." "And you couldn't reach him?" Her jaw tightened. He went under before I could see where." Noah wrote it down, but his eyes didn't leave her. "What time was this?" She blinked. "Around 11. Maybe later. I didn't look at my watch." He noted the pause, the uncertainty, then stepped back as another officer approached with a recovered item, a dark jacket, waterlogged, and a set of keys. The tag on the ring read E.M. "Your husband's?" Noah asked. Lena nodded. Her lips trembled. "Please, just find him. He's a strong swimmer. Maybe he made it to shore." Noah didn't answer. The divers were already sweeping the northern stretch of the lake. Somewhere behind them, the trees whispered with the morning wind, the kind that carried secrets through the valley. When the search halted at noon, there was still no body, just a boat half submerged, drifting near the reeds, its engine off, its anchor missing. Noah watched as the evidence team pulled it in. The hull was scratched, the seat cushions torn loose, but there was no sign of a violent struggle. No overturned gear, no spilled wine glasses, nothing. Only stillness, too clean, too staged. Lena sat on the pier staring into the mist. Her lips moved faintly, as if praying or speaking to the water. Noah walked toward her, pausing before he said, "We'll continue the search tomorrow. But Mrs. Moritz, I'll need you to come down to the station later. We'll take your full statement." Her eyes met his. For the first time, something flickered there. Something cold, unreadable. "Of course," she said softly. "I'll tell you everything." As he turned away, Noah's gaze fell once more on the lake. It looked still, almost peaceful now, but he could feel it, like the water itself was holding on to something. Greywater Lake never gave back what it didn't want to, and that was the thought that followed him all the way to the station. The drive back from Greywater Lake was silent, except for the hum of the road beneath the tires. Detective Noah Reeves replayed Lena's words in his mind. Each pause, each tremor that seemed too carefully placed. By the time he reached the station, the image of her face, wet hair, hollow eyes, had already begun to haunt him. He'd seen grief before. This wasn't it. This was choreography. By morning, the town of Greywater was already talking. Tragic accident, they said. The Moritzes were perfect together. Noah heard that phrase again and again as he sifted through their background. Perfect. Married 8 years. No children. Evan Moritz, an architect known for his lakeside homes. Lena, an art teacher who painted portraits of water and sky. Together they'd built the kind of image that small towns adore. The cultured couple, hosting summer barbecues and smiling for charity photos. But perfection always left fingerprints when it cracked. At the Moritz house, sunlight fell across polished wood floors and framed photographs. In every picture, Evan's arm circled Lena's waist, his smile immaculate. Yet, in each one, her eyes looked slightly off, like she wasn't there. Noah ran his fingers along the mantel, dust-free, controlled. Too perfect again. Mr. and Mrs. Moritz kept mostly to themselves, said a neighbor, Clara Jensen, from her porch. Nice people. He worked long hours, though. She'd paint all night sometimes, windows open, music low. But lately, things sounded tense. Tense how? Noah asked. Clara hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the lake. Voices. Once, maybe 3 weeks ago, I heard something crash. Then nothing. She came by the next morning with bruises on her arm, said she'd tripped over a chair. Inside, Noah opened the small studio adjoining the kitchen. The air smelled faintly of turpentine and lavender. Half-finished canvases leaned against the wall, each depicting Greywater Lake at different hours, dawn, dusk, midnight. But one painting stood apart from the rest. It showed a storm, a figure standing in a boat, back turned, waves swallowing the light. The signature at the bottom read simply, L.M. He took a photo of it and left. Later, at the station, Officer Hart dropped a file on his desk. Pulled their financials. Evan had recently taken out an additional life insurance policy worth $2 million. Noah's brow furrowed. When? 5 weeks ago. Beneficiary, Lena Moritz. That was motive enough to start a conversation. That evening, he returned to her. She was sitting on the porch of a rented cabin near the lake, blanket over her knees, tea steaming beside her. When she saw him, she straightened, calm, practiced. I told you everything yesterday, she said softly. I know, Noah replied. But you left out the part about the insurance policy. Her lips parted slightly, just a flicker of surprise before she recovered. Evan insisted, said it was for peace of mind. I didn't even want it. Funny thing about peace of mind, he said. It tends to disappear around drowning accidents. Her eyes narrowed. Are you accusing me of something? He didn't answer, just studied her, the way the steam from her tea trembled between them. No body yet, he said finally. But water always gives up its secrets. When he left, the wind picked up over the lake. Lena stayed seated long after his car disappeared, fingers tightening on the mug until it cracked faintly under her grip. For a brief second, her calm broke, the mask slipping into something darker, wounded and afraid. Then she rose, walked inside, and closed the door. Through the window, her reflection merged with the storm painting on the wall. 2 figures caught in the same dark water. The perfect marriage was beginning to bleed through its frame. And somewhere in the distance, the lake rippled again, as if remembering, The rain had returned by morning, thin, steady, and cold. It drummed softly against the windows of the Greywater police station as Detective Noah Reeves waited in interview room 2. A recording light blinked red on the table. Across from him, Lena Moritz sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, her damp hair pinned neatly behind her ears. She didn't look like a woman who had lost her husband 2 days ago. She looked like someone preparing for a performance. He pressed the recorder button. "Mrs. Moritz, I just want you to tell me what happened again, in your own words." Lena nodded once, steady. "We left the dock around 10. The air was calm, the water still. Evan wanted to take photos of lightning over the ridge. He was passionate about capturing things at their most dramatic." She gave a small, rehearsed smile. "We anchored near the center of the lake. Around 11, the storm hit, suddenly. The waves turned rough. I told him to sit, but he stood to adjust the sail. He lost balance, fell overboard. I tried to reach him, but..." She swallowed hard. "He went under. I called for help. I ran when I couldn't see him anymore." Her words fell with perfect pacing, each pause landing exactly where grief should. But Noah could almost hear the click of invisible metronome behind her tone. "Mrs. Moritz," he said carefully, "the weather records show light rain that night. No storm warnings, no sudden winds." Lena's gaze lifted to him, calm, unblinking. "The storm wasn't on paper, Detective. It was real. I saw the lightning." He leaned back, folding his arms. "Funny thing is, no one else around the lake did." For the first time, she hesitated. Just a second too long. Then maybe... It passed over quickly. He nodded, jotting something on his pad he didn't need to write. "And you said you ran to the road for help. That's a mile uphill through the forest." "Yes." "In the, dark? No flashlight?" Her fingers tightened slightly. "I know the path. We've been coming here for years." "So you left the boat drifting? No anchor?" Her eyes flickered, confusion crossing her face. "Anchor? Yes, I think it was still attached." Noah looked up. "The anchor's missing, Mrs. Moritz." The air shifted between them. He didn't push further. Silence often said more than accusations. She sat still, breathing through her nose, collecting herself like someone smoothing a wrinkled page. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. "Detective, I understand how this must look. But you don't know Evan. He was proud, reckless. He thought the lake was his playground." "You argued?" Her eyes flashed. "Every couple argues." "About what?" She met his gaze directly. "About his work. About how little time he had for us. But it doesn't matter now, does it? He's gone." He noted the shift, from him to us, from gone instead of dead. A subtle distance. Grief carried denial, but this sounded more like detachment. He turned off the recorder. "Thank you, Mrs. Moritz. You can go." She rose slowly, smoothing her coat. "Are you going to keep looking for him?" "We are." He paused. "And we'll find him." Lena's lips twitched, not quite a smile, not quite fear. "I hope so, Detective." When she left, the scent of lavender and rain lingered behind her. Noah stared at the chair she'd occupied, the perfect symmetry of her statement echoing in his head. People grieving stumbled through their memories. Lena moved through hers like a practiced actress. No wasted motion, no misplaced word. He played back the recording once more. Every inflection, every pause sounded rehearsed. There were no cracks in her version of the truth. Too smooth, too consistent. And that was what made it dangerous. By dusk, the divers had returned from Greywater Lake with something new. A small, waterproof, GPS tracker found wedged near the boat's engine, its blinking light cut through the mist like an accusing eye. Noah stared at it from the evidence bag, pulse ticking faster. Machines, he thought. Don't lie. And somewhere in the data stored inside that little device, the lake was ready to speak for itself. The storm had long passed, but Greywater Lake still wore its grief like a bruise. The morning mist curled low over the water as Detective Noah Reeves stood near the evidence table, the GPS tracker glinting under fluorescent light. It was small, black, unremarkable, yet it held more truth than any human witness could. Technician Dana Ortiz leaned over her laptop, fingers flying across the keys. Got it powered up. Last recorded data was from the night of the accident, 11:42 p.m. She frowned. But there's something strange. The route doesn't match her statement. Noah moved closer. On the screen, a blue line traced the boat's journey across the digital map of Greywater Lake. It started from the dock near the Moritz cabin, curved out toward the center, then abruptly veered west, hugging the rocky cliffs for several minutes before stopping completely. It stayed stationary here, Dana said, pointing, for exactly 32 minutes. Then the tracker goes dead. Noah stared at the glowing coordinates. And that's nowhere near the middle of the lake. No, sir. And weather logs confirm, no storm activity within 10 miles. She lied. The words hung heavy in the air. He remembered Lena's soft, measured tone, the precise pauses, the calm grief. Now those words rearranged themselves in his mind like puzzle pieces that no longer fit. "What's out by the western cliffs?" he asked. "Mostly rock and brush. No docks, no cabins. Just a hiking trail that's closed off this season." Noah exhaled slowly. "That's where we look next." By noon, the search team had deployed 2 boats to the cliffs. The lake water darkened there, deep, almost black, bordered by jagged stone that rose like teeth from the earth. Noah stood at the bow, coat whipping in the wind, scanning the edges through binoculars. "There," one of the divers called, pointing toward a narrow alcove where the water churned faintly. Something metallic glinted beneath the surface. The diver plunged in, bubbles breaking the silence. Minutes passed. Then he surfaced, breathless. "We've got fragments of the boat anchor and a torn section of rope. Looks like it was cut clean, not frayed." Noah's jaw tightened. "Bag it." When they brought the items ashore, the truth felt heavier than the evidence. The rope was thick and strong, impossible to snap by accident. He turned it over in his hands, staring at the clean slice. Someone had taken a knife to it. He drove back to the station under a low gray sky, the kind that made the world feel smaller. In his mind, the timeline began to rewrite itself. Evan didn't fall. He didn't drown in panic. Something had happened in that 32-minute silence, the kind of silence that only intention could create. At his desk, he replayed Lena's interview again. "We anchored near the center." He stood to photograph lightning. Her words echoed hollow now. He zoomed in on the timestamp of her 911 call, 12:14 a.m. If the GPS went dark at 11:42, that meant she waited more than 30 minutes before asking for help. Why wait, unless there was something to clean, something to hide? Noah rubbed his temples, exhaustion creeping in. Dana appeared at his door, holding a printout. "You'll want to see this, the GPS data. Look closer at the first 10 minutes. He studied the chart. The boat's speed fluctuated wildly before reaching the cliffs. Then, for 2 minutes, it drifted in tight circles, like someone searching for something, or someone trying to steady a struggle. "Could be current," Dana said. "Or a fight," Noah muttered. He closed the file slowly. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance, a false echo of the storm Lena had described. That evening, Noah drove to the Moritz cabin again. The lights were off, curtains drawn. The air smelled faintly of rain and smoke. He stood at the dock where their boat had launched, staring across the lake toward the cliffs barely visible through the mist. Somewhere out there, the truth waited beneath cold water and memory. His phone buzzed. A message from the lab. Blood traces found on recovered rope fibers, awaiting DNA confirmation. Noah's stomach turned cold. He looked back at the house where Lena slept, her lights still dark. The lake was silent, but its reflection flickered like an open eye. He exhaled, voice low. "All right, Lena. Let's hear what else the lake remembers." He turned toward his car, headlights slicing through fog, unaware that the next discovery, the one buried under that still water, would finally give the lake a voice. The following morning, Greywater Lake was still again, its surface smooth as glass, the kind that reflected everything but told nothing. Detective Noah Reeves sat in his car across from the Moritz cabin, watching the curtains shift faintly in the upstairs window. Lena hadn't left since his last visit. The neighbor said she barely slept, that she spent hours sitting by the window facing the lake. Grief could isolate people, but this kind of stillness felt rehearsed, almost meditative. He stepped out, gravel crunching under his boots. The autumn air bit against his skin. As he approached the door, he caught faint music, something classical, slow and deliberate. When Lena opened it, she looked different. Her hair was neatly braided, her face calm, composed. Only her eyes betrayed her, red-rimmed but dry. "Detective Reeves," she said softly, "you're early." "Couldn't sleep," he replied. "Neither could you, I imagine." She stepped aside, letting him in. The house was immaculate. No dishes in the sink, no misplaced cushion, not even a trace of dust. Only the faint scent of paint thinner lingered in the air. "I like to keep busy," she said, noticing his gaze. It helps me think less." He nodded. "Mind if I ask you a few more questions?" "Of course not, I want to help." Her politeness was unnerving. She poured tea into 2 white cups and sat across from him at the dining table. On the wall behind her hung one of her paintings, the lake under twilight, calm but dark. The brush strokes were delicate, controlled, like everything else about her. "We found evidence," Noah began carefully, "that the boat was near the western cliffs that night. Not in the center, like you said." Her expression didn't shift. She stirred her tea once, twice. "That's impossible. We didn't go near the cliffs." "The GPS doesn't lie, Mrs. Moritz." "Maybe it malfunctioned," she said quickly, voice tightening. "Evan was always tinkering with that thing." Noah leaned forward slightly. There were also rope fibers, traces of blood. This time her spoon clinked against the cup. The sound was small, but it echoed. "Blood?" she whispered. "Whose?" "We don't know yet. The lab's still working." Silence fell like dust between them. Then she exhaled, forcing a smile. "You think I hurt him?" "I think," Noah said quietly, "you know more than you're telling me." Her gaze locked onto his, steady, unflinching. "You have no idea what that man was capable of," she said, the words spilling too fast, too sharp. "He made me feel small, invisible. Everything had to be his way, his schedule, his rules, his temper." She caught herself, straightened her shoulders. "But I loved him. You understand that, don't you?" Noah didn't answer. He'd seen that contradiction before. Love and resentment tangled so tightly they strangled each other. She stood, her voice lowering to almost a whisper. "People only see what's on the surface. They never ask what's beneath it." He followed her gaze toward the window. Outside, the lake gleamed faintly under pale sunlight. "Sometimes what's beneath it," he said, "is exactly what kills us." She turned back, smiling faintly. "Or what keeps us alive?" When he left, she stayed at the window, watching his car disappear down the narrow road. The teacup trembled in her hand. Slowly, she set it down and walked toward her studio. The room smelled stronger now. Turpentine, damp canvas, the faint metallic tang of rust. On the easel sat a new painting, the cliffs at night, a lone figure standing on the edge, brush poised above the water. Her breathing quickened as she traced the outline of the shadow. For a moment, it looked too familiar, too real. She wiped her hand across the figure, smearing the paint until the face vanished. Behind her, the old floorboard creaked, a sound she couldn't place. She froze, listening, but there was nothing. Only silence and the soft pulse of her own heartbeat. Outside, the lake rippled once, as if answering her unspoken thought. And miles away, at the police lab, a computer beeped, DNA results ready for review. The rope's blood didn't belong to Lena. It belonged to Evan Moritz. Detective Noah Reeves read the lab report twice before setting it down. The blood on the rope matched Evan Moritz. There was no trace of anyone else's DNA, no struggle, no second person, which meant only one thing. Evan was bleeding before he ever touched the water. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Outside the window, the morning light stretched thin over the lake, pale and indifferent. He thought of Lena's face the day before, how carefully she'd measured every word. Somewhere in her story, truth and performance had fused into something unreadable. "Detective," Officer Hart called from the hallway. "You'll want to see this." Hart handed him a small envelope. Pulled Evan's phone records. There's a number that keeps showing up. Late nights, sometimes during work hours, registered to a Mara Voss. Ring a bell? Noah's pulse ticked faster. "Run her address." The address led him to a design studio 2 towns over, tucked behind a row of art galleries. The nameplate on the frosted glass door read, Voss Landscapes. Inside, the air smelled of earth and cut flowers. A young woman looked up from a drafting table as he entered. She was in her late 20s, with sun-browned skin and green eyes that caught the light. Her voice wavered when she spoke. "You're here about Evan, aren't you?" Noah nodded. "You knew him well?" She hesitated. "We worked together for almost a year. I handled the garden designs for his lakeside homes. He was brilliant, but complicated." "Complicated how?" She exhaled. "He wanted control of everything. Projects, people, emotions. But he could be kind, too. That's what made it hard to walk away." Noah studied her face. "Walk away from what, exactly?" Her gaze dropped to the sketches on her desk. "It wasn't just work anymore. We were close. It wasn't supposed to happen. He said his marriage was falling apart, that Lena needed him less and less. I believed him. Did Lena know?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "She found out, 3 weeks before he disappeared. He called me that night, said she'd gone through his messages. He sounded afraid, actually." Noah frowned. "Afraid of what?" "Her temper. He said she could break things, once even smashed a painting when he came home late. I told him to leave, but he said he'd handle it. Then 2 days later, he stopped answering my calls." Her voice faltered, and tears welled. "I thought maybe she'd hurt herself. I didn't think—" Noah closed his notebook gently. "If you think of anything else, even small, you call me." As he left, he couldn't shake her final words. He sounded afraid. Fear didn't fit the portrait of a confident architect, but it did fit a man trapped in a marriage built on quiet control. That evening, Noah revisited the Moritz cabin. The lake was turning gold in the dying light. Lena answered the door, hair down this time, eyes shadowed but alert. "Detective," she said, feigning SERP. "Rise. More questions?" "Just a few." He stepped inside. "Do you know a woman named Mara Voss?" A pause, then too quickly. "She worked with Evan, yes. I met her once." "She says you found out about their relationship." Lena's hand froze mid-air, the porcelain cup trembling. "Their what?" affair. The cup slipped and shattered against the floor. For a moment, she didn't move. Then, with a small, hollow laugh, she said, "So he told you that? He finally admitted it?" Noah stayed silent. Her calm unraveled. "Do you have any idea what it's like to build your life around someone who's already planning an escape? To be replaced by a younger version of yourself?" She turned away, shoulders shaking. "He promised me forever. Then he made me invisible." "Did you confront him?" Noah asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Yes, the night he died." Noah felt his pulse quicken. "And what happened?" She turned, eyes red but cold. "We argued. He said he was leaving after one last trip to the lake. I begged him not to go. He pushed past me." A tremor crossed her lips. "That's all." Noah watched her closely. There was truth in her pain, but buried deep, wrapped in something darker. As he left, the sky bled into dusk. The lake shimmered under the fading light, and somewhere near the western cliffs, a bird circled low, calling once before vanishing into fog. Noah stood by his car, staring across the water. He knew now there was another motive, one far older than money. Jealousy, betrayal, desperation. And if Lena's confession held even a sliver of truth, then the next thing to surface from Greywater Lake wouldn't just be evidence. It would be the body. The lake had been silent for weeks. The current that once swallowed a man whole now stirred with the faint hum of engines, the splash of boots, and the quiet urgency of men who knew what they were about to find. Detective Noah Reeves stood at the dock as the rescue divers resurfaced. The morning fog hung thick, veiling the world in gray. Then came the shout. "Body!" Two men waded forward, Holland and up a blackened shape tangled in reeds. The smell of rot hit the air, a sour blend of mud and decay. The form was swollen, distorted, almost unrecognizable, but as the divers laid it on the tarp, Noah's breath caught. Evan Moritz had come home. The coroner knelt beside the remains, pulling back the waterlogged sheet. A glint of gold flashed, a wedding ring still clinging to the bone. "Estimate of submersion?" Noah asked. 3 weeks, give or take, the coroner replied, consistent with the timeline of the drowning. He hesitated, then looked up. "But there's more. Blunt force trauma to the skull. Definitely pre-mortem. He didn't drown, Detective." The words hung like fog. Noah looked out toward the dark water, where ripples broke the surface and vanished again. Lena's story had just cracked wide open. By noon, the cabin was surrounded by patrol cars. Lena stood on the porch, arms wrapped tightly around herself, her face pale but unreadable. "You found him," she whispered when Noah approached. "Yes," he said quietly, "but not the way you told it." Her eyes flickered. "What do you mean?" "The coroner's report shows blunt trauma. He was dead before he ever hit the water." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then her lips trembled. "That's not possible. He fell. He slipped." Noah's tone was steady. "You told me he went for a swim." "I panicked," she snapped, her composure cracking. "I didn't know what else to say. He hit his head, I swear to you." "Where?" Her mouth opened, but no sound came. The silence was answer enough. Noah turned to the officers. "Search the property again. Every inch." Hours later, the sun sank low behind the trees, staining the sky in shades of copper. The officers combed through the boathouse, the woods, the shed. Then one of them called out, "Detective! Over here!" Noah hurried to the back of the property where the soil looked disturbed. A shallow pit, half covered with leaves, gave off a faint metallic glint. They dug carefully, unearthing a hammer, its handle cracked, the head stained dark brown. Noah's stomach turned. He didn't need a lab to tell him what that stain was. As the evidence bag sealed shut, he looked back toward the lake. The air had grown still again, as if the water itself was watching. Inside the cabin, Lena sat at the table, her hands clenched around a teacup that had gone cold. Noah set the hammer down on the wood between them. "Do you recognize this?" Her gaze flicked to it, then away. "No." "It was buried behind your house. Evan's blood matches the sample we found on the rope. You see where this is going, right?" Her jaw trembled, but her eyes hardened. "You don't understand. He wasn't the man you think he was." "Then tell me," Noah urged softly. "Help me understand." She leaned forward, voice trembling. "He made me feel small, like everything I did was a performance for him to judge. The house, the lake, the marriage, it was all his stage. I tried to leave once. He said he'd ruin me." Her tears fell silently. "That night he grabbed me. I pushed him away. He hit his head on the dock. I thought he was dead, but then I panicked. I thought no one would believe me." Noah studied her, searching for sincerity in the cracks of her confession. "So you buried the hammer? Dumped the body?" Her silence was louder than any answer. He stood slowly. "Lena Moritz, you're coming with us." As the officers led her out, she glanced once toward the window, the lake glinting beyond. "You think the water keeps secrets, Detective?" she whispered. "It doesn't. It gives them back when it's ready." Noah followed her gaze. The ripples on the surface caught the dying light, and for a fleeting moment he could swear he saw something else beneath the water, something heavy, waiting. The lake had given back a body, but not the whole truth, and Noah knew the next discovery would change everything. The interrogation room smelled faintly of metal and coffee. A clock ticked softly, on the wall, steady, merciless. Detective Noah Reeves sat across from Lena Moritz, whose wrists rested calmly on the table. Her expression was controlled again, the tears gone, her eyes focused somewhere far away. Between them lay a single page, the official timeline of Evan Moritz's final night. Noah tapped the sheet. "According to your statement, Evan left the cabin around 8:45 p.m. You called emergency services at 9:30. That's a 45-minute window. The GPS from your car fills in 15 of those minutes. You drove to the edge of the property, then back. That leaves 30 minutes unaccounted for. Where were you, Lena?" Her lips curved slightly. "I told you I was looking for him." He leaned forward. "You were looking for a man you'd already killed?" The faint smile didn't waver. "You've already decided that, haven't you?" Noah didn't answer. He slid a small photograph toward her, taken from the recovered dashcam footage. It showed the lake's dock under faint moonlight. A single figure moved across the frame, dragging something long and heavy toward the water. Lena's gaze flickered, but she stayed silent. "That was 9:04 p.m., Noah said quietly. "The timestamp doesn't lie. The camera picked up the reflection of your car's headlights. You were there, Lena. And you weren't alone." Her head snapped up. "What did you say?" He studied her carefully. "Someone else helped you move him. You weren't strong enough to drag Evan's body alone. So who was it?" For the first time, her composure faltered. "I don't know what you're talking about." Noah stood, pacing slowly. "You said Evan threatened to ruin you. Did he threaten anyone else? Maybe someone who had something to lose, too?" Lena's breathing quickened. "Stop." "Was it Mara Voss?" He pressed. "Did she help you? Did you both decide he was better off dead?" Her hand slammed against the table. "No!" The chill filled the room. She froze, realizing how much she'd just revealed. Noah stopped pacing, watching her crumble inch by inch. "She came that night, didn't she?" he said softly. "Mara!" Lena's voice trembled. "She texted. Said she needed to talk to him. I didn't answer. I thought if I ignored her, she'd go away. But she didn't, Noah said. The cell tower logs show her car pinged near your cabin at 8:20 p.m., 25 minutes before Evan died. Lena shook her head, tears starting again. She said she loved him. She wanted to make things right. I thought she was gone before it happened. I swear I thought she left. Noah sat down again, lowering his tone. So she saw him that night. A whisper. Yes. The detective exhaled, piecing the fragments together. The missing 30 minutes weren't about what Lena did. They were about what she saw. He stood. You should know, Lena. Mara's been missing for 4 days. The color drained from her face. What? She didn't show up for work. Her phone's dead. Her car was found near an overlook 2 miles from your property. Empty. For the first time, true fear surfaced in Lena's eyes. You think No, I didn't touch her. I thought she was gone, I swear. Noah gathered his notes, voice calm but edged. Maybe the lake didn't give everything back after all. Lena's trembling hands tightened into fists. Detective, you don't understand, she whispered. There's something else out there. Evan wasn't the only one lying. Her words froze him. Outside, thunder rumbled over Greywater Lake. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavy, each drop echoing against the glass like a warning. Noah turned off the recorder. Then I guess it's time we find out what else the water's hiding. The clock ticked again, marking the last of those missing 30 minutes. And this time, the lake would decide what it wanted to return. The rain didn't stop through the night. It poured over Greywater Lake like the sky itself was trying to cleanse it of secrets. By dawn, the storm had quieted, but Detective Noah Reeves hadn't slept. He sat in his car outside the precinct, the sound of the wipers scraping against silence. Mara Voss was missing. Lena Moritz sat in holding, repeating fragments of guilt and denial like a looped recording. And somewhere between the two women lay the truth Evan had taken to the bottom of the lake. Noah stared at the GPS printout from Lena's car again. Between 9 o'clock and 9:30 p.m., the same missing 30 minutes, her car had stopped near an abandoned service road that curved toward the cliffs. Mara's car had been found only 2 miles from there. It wasn't coincidence. By mid-morning, he was standing at the overlook. The rain had left the soil slick, the path muddy and uneven. He moved slowly, scanning every inch. That's when he saw it, a faint depression in the mud, half hidden by pine needles. A heel mark, smaller than Lena's boots. Mara's size, maybe. Just beyond it, near the cliff's edge, something glinted in the pale light. He crouched and brushed the dirt away. A charm bracelet, delicate, silver, one charm missing. He remembered seeing it once, glinting on Mara's wrist during their first meeting at the studio. Noah's chest tightened. She had been here, and she hadn't left. He looked out over the lake below. The water was calm again, almost glassy, reflecting the gray of the clouds. But to Noah, it seemed to pulse, alive with something unsaid. Back at the station, Lena sat in the interview room again, her hair damp from the rain, her gaze hollow. She didn't flinch when Noah entered. He placed the bracelet on the table between them. Recognize this? Her eyes widened. Where did you... It was found near the overlook, the one your GPS data puts you close to the night Evan died. Lena shook her head, whispering, No. She wasn't supposed to be there. Who? Mara, she breathed. She said she'd left. She promised. Tell me what happened. Tears began to form, but still no words came. Instead, she leaned back, trembling, her eyes darting to the camera in the corner, then back to Noah, as if begging him to understand what she couldn't say aloud. Noah softened his tone. Did she see you that night? Did she see what happened to Evan? A silent nod. Did she threaten you? Her lips parted, but no sound emerged, just a faint shake of the head. Then she did something unexpected. She reached for the pen on the table and began to write, her hand shaking violently. When she pushed the paper toward him, her eyes glistened with silent panic. The note read, "She said she'd tell. I followed her to the cliffs, but someone else was there." Noah frowned. Someone else? Lena's eyes filled with tears. She pointed to the bracelet, then to the note again, scribbling beneath the first line. She was meeting him. He felt the blood drain from his face. Him who, Lena? She wrote a single name, Evan. Noah blinked, stunned. Evan was already dead. She shook her head violently, then wrote again. She said he called her that night, said to meet him by the cliffs. The silence in the room became unbearable. Noah's thoughts raced. If Mara believed Evan was alive, if someone had lured her out there using his name, then the story was even darker than he'd imagined. Who would have known both your secrets? He asked quietly. Lena's eyes went distant, her voice barely a whisper. Someone who wanted him gone as much as I did. Before Noah could press further, the door opened. Officer Hart stepped in, face pale. Detective, you need to see this. Now. Minutes later, Noah stood in the evidence room as Hart played back the dashcam footage again, this time enhanced. The grainy image of the dock under moonlight flickered, and then, just before the figure dragged the body, another shadow moved behind it, taller, heavier, watching. Noah felt a chill crawl up his spine. That's not Lena. No, Hart said. And it's not Mara either. The figure lingered a moment, then vanished toward the trees. A confession had been written without words, but its meaning was loud as thunder. Lena wasn't alone that night, and someone else still walked free. As Noah looked out the window, rain beginning again, he realized the lake hadn't finished telling its story. The next truth it gave back might drown them all. The cliffs above Greywater Lake were silent again. Only the wind moved, whispering through the trees like a memory trying to speak. Detective Noah Reeves stood at the same overlook where he'd found Mara's bracelet. The morning fog clung low to the ground, the air sharp with the scent of wet pine. Somewhere beneath his boots, the truth waited. He replayed the dashcam footage on his tablet. The second shadow, moving with purpose, not panic. The stride was confident, familiar. Whoever that figure was, they knew the lake, the property, the Moritz family. He zoomed in. The reflection from the car headlights caught a faint outline of a badge clipped to a belt. His stomach tightened. Not a stranger. Not a lover. Someone from inside the investigation. Back at the station, Officer Hart met him with a grim look. "You've got to see this," he said, handing over a printed phone log. It showed a call made from Evan Moritz's phone, time-stamped 8:12 p.m., the night he supposedly died. The recipient? Officer Raymond Hart. Noah froze. "That's your number." Hart swallowed hard. "Yeah, but I didn't get it. I was home. I swear." Noah's voice hardened. "Your phone pinged off the same tower near the cliffs." Hart stepped back, shaking his head. "You think I—" No, Reeves, you've got it wrong." "Then tell me how your phone got there." Hart hesitated, then slumped into a chair. "Evan called me that night before. Said he needed to talk about something sensitive," said Hatal. "He had proof Lena was seeing someone and wanted to make a statement before things got messy." "Messy how?" "He didn't say. Just sounded scared. I drove out there, but when I got close I saw his car lights by the dock. I heard shouting, him and Lena. I didn't go closer. I didn't want to be part of it, so I left." Noah leaned forward. And then? Hart's eyes darted to the floor. I came back later, around 9. His car was gone, the dock was empty. I figured they'd made up. But someone was dragging the body, Noah said coldly, and someone else was watching. Hart's silence was almost a confession. You didn't stop it, did you? Noah pressed. Hart shook his head, voice breaking. I thought it was over. I didn't know she'd... Noah slammed his hand on the table. You buried evidence, Hart. You knew. The officer's voice was barely audible. I didn't kill him, Reeves. I swear. But I didn't help either. That evening, Noah returned to the cliffs with a forensic team. The sky had gone bruised with clouds, the lake below reflecting faint lightning in the distance. Start from the tree line, he ordered. Check for fresh soil, disturbed ground, anything. For an hour, nothing. Then one of the techs called out, Detective, over here! They'd found a shallow depression near the edge, half filled with rainwater. As they dug, a faint metallic click echoed, the shovel striking something hard. It wasn't a body this time. It was a phone. Mud-caked, cracked, but intact enough to power on. The lock screen lit up. Mara Voss. Noah's pulse jumped. Inside her messages, a thread of texts stood out, time-stamped after Evan's death. Meet me by the cliffs. We need to fix this. E. I'm here. Where are you? Nyem. Turn off your phone. E. But the final text came from a different number, one registered to Officer Raymond Hart. The fog thickened around them, the world shrinking to the circle of their flashlights. Noah stared out at the water, realization dawning cold and clear. Hart hadn't killed Evan, but he'd used Evan's phone. He'd lured Mara to the cliffs, maybe to silence her, maybe to keep his own secrets buried. And Lena, she'd only been a piece in a much larger game. By the time Noah returned to the station, Hart's desk was empty. His badge and gun, gone. A note waited on the chair. You think you know what happened at the lake? You don't. She wasn't supposed to die either. Outside, thunder rolled again, echoing off the cliffs like a warning. Noah grabbed his coat and radio. All units, be advised, he said. Officer Raymond Hart is armed and on the move. As he stepped into the storm, he looked once toward the dark horizon where the cliffs met the water. The wind rose, carrying whispers through the trees, soft, almost human. The cliffs were speaking again, and this time they were calling for justice. The rain was still coming down in cold, slanting sheets as Detective Noah Reeves drove toward Greywater Lake. Every flash of lightning lit up the narrow forest road like a strobe, brief glimpses of trees, fog, and the lonely shimmer of the lake beyond. Officer Raymond Hart was out there somewhere, armed, running, and maybe, finally, ready to confess what he'd buried that night. Noah's radio crackled. Unit 12, do you have visual? He grabbed the receiver. Negative. Hart's vehicle was ditched near the southern dock. I'm closing in on foot. The lake looked alive in the storm, its surface rippling and heaving under sheets of rain. Somewhere beneath that darkness lay every secret these people had tried to drown. Evan Moritz, Mara Voss, and the lies that bound them all together. Hart's flashlight beam sliced through the mist near the boathouse. Noah spotted him just as the man turned, pistol in hand. Ray! Noah shouted over the wind. It's over! Don't make me pull mine! Hart's voice came raw, desperate. You don't understand, Reeves. I didn't mean for any of this. Then talk to... Oh, me. Tell me what really happened that night. Hart's shoulders shook. He called me like I said. But he wasn't planning to confess anything. He was blackmailing me. Blackmailing you? Evan knew I'd taken bribes from a contractor just once. He said he'd go public unless I helped him fake a drowning. He wanted to disappear, start over with Mara. Said Lena would get the insurance and move on. Noah's breath hitched. You helped him stage his death? Hart nodded miserably. I met him at the dock. I thought he was serious. He handed me his GPS tracker and told me to set it up, so it looked like he'd gone out onto the lake. But then Lena showed up. She saw us arguing. She thought I was helping him run off with Mara. She snapped. She hit him. Noah's mind spun. With what? The hammer. It happened so fast. He went down, hard. She screamed, begged me to help. I panicked. I told her we could still make it look like an accident. Lightning split the sky, reflecting across Hart's wet face. His voice broke. I tied the rope, dragged him to the edge, and pushed the body in. But she made me promise to erase everything, to say nothing. I thought it would end there. Noah stared at him. Then what about Mara? Hart's eyes filled with dread. She called later that night. Said Evan had texted her to meet at the cliffs, but that was me. I'd used his phone to delete messages, and she must have seen the signal. I went to stop her from talking, but she slipped. The ground gave way. I swear I didn't touch her. The confession hung in the air, ragged and heavy. Where is she, Ray? Hart's gaze drifted toward the cliffs. The lake took her, same as him. Noah exhaled, rain dripping from his coat. Then why run now? Why not come clean? Hart's face twisted with guilt. Because the GPS didn't lie, Reeves. It never did. It tracked everything that night, every stop, every turn, every lie I told myself was buried. I thought I'd deleted it, but the backup uploaded to his cloud. The data shows it all. Where I went, when I pushed the boat out, where I threw the hammer. You're saying the GPS log still exists? Noah asked sharply. Hart nodded. His text synced it automatically before midnight. I checked his account yesterday. It's still there. Thunder boomed again. Noah's mind raced. If what Hart said was true, the GPS record could prove every moment of that night, the exact path of guilt through every lie. Give me the login, Noah said. Hart reached into his pocket, pulling out a soaked notebook. Inside, a single line of numbers. It's his cloud ID. I was going to destroy it, but maybe it's time someone saw the truth. Before Noah could respond, a loud crack split the air. The ground near the dock shuddered, years of erosion finally giving way under the storm. The wooden planks buckled. Ray, move! Noah yelled, lunging forward, but Hart slipped on the slick boards. His hand reached out, the notebook falling from his grip as he tumbled into the churning black water below. Noah's flashlight beam caught one last glimpse of him, then nothing but ripples and rain. He dove after him, but the lake gave nothing back this time. Only silence. When Noah finally staggered to shore, soaked and shaking, the notebook lay half submerged in the mud. He pried it open with trembling fingers, the numbers still legible despite the water. The GPS would tell the truth. The final truth. Hours later, in the dim glow of the station, Noah uploaded the data. The map came alive on screen, blue lines tracing movements around the lake, timestamps glowing like breadcrumbs. One coordinate blinked brighter than the rest, sitting at the very center of the lake, right where the depth dropped the deepest. The file name read, Final Path. Noah leaned back, the storm still echoing faintly outside. The water had given up its secrets one by one, and now the GPS, the silent witness, was ready to speak for everyone who couldn't. But as the map zoomed in, a new marker appeared, one last location, logged 30 seconds after Hart's supposed death. Someone else was still moving out there. The lake wasn't finished yet.